Hello, fellow Webtoon fans and creators. I'm Audrey, and this is the Webtoon Wave podcast. This week, I sat down with Chang Lee, the insanely talented and comical creator of Flagbearer on Webtoon. Now, I will say, I hadn't heard of Flagbearer until I met Chang through Pantheon Talks. For any of you that haven't heard of Pantheon Talks, it is hosted by Apollo, and he is awesome. He talks about Webtoon content, and he really analyzes anything from fandom to story structure to creating a romance story or creating an action story. So when Chang appeared on Pantheon Talks, I had to interview him too. Chang is insanely talented, and I learned a lot from him in this interview. So if you're a fan of action manhwa and like really gritty art style, you're gonna love Chang's comic Flagbearer. Before we start today's episode, I just want to announce that we finally have memberships on our channel. For the cost of a boba every month, you can get early access to new podcast episodes every week, fun bonus content from interviews with your favorite creators, and I might just throw some extra fun videos in there for you, like celebrating Instant Miso's 10-year anniversary, testing Ingrid Ochoa's knowledge of Harry Potter, or sitting down with Rose Oak and talking about our favorite Webtoon hot takes. You can get access to that and more with our channel memberships. We have a $3 tier and a $5 tier. With the $3 tier, you can get early access to podcast episodes every week, and with the $5 tier, you get that bonus content and bonus videos. So if you want to support us, hit that join button down below and you will have our eternal gratitude. Now let's get back into the episode. Hi Chang, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I got so excited when you said you were down to come on, and I'm just super excited to talk to you today.
No. That's what I need to say. I'm super excited to be here. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay, let's just get started. So for our listeners who don't know you or haven't read your webcomic, just give us an introduction to you and like how you got started with art and webcomics.
Sure. Where do I even begin? I mean, I was just a regular Korean kid growing up in America. And just one fateful day, I turned on the TV and Toonami was on. And then I can't remember if it was very specifically Naruto, but that's what stood out the most. And from then on, I was like, yeah, what is this stuff that's clearly slightly different cartoon? Like, what is this? And then I delve even further. I'm like, oh, it's from Japan. That's awesome. Oh, there's 9 million other stuff from Japan. Let me check that out. And then it was all history from there. I picked up a pencil. I was like, I want to draw some Naruto. Let me do that. And then from then on, it just kind of kept going. And then somehow, some way, I found myself entering a Webtoon contest, and somehow, some way, got second place in that contest. And then ended up making Flagbearer for them. And here we are.
I think that's just incredible. First of all, like, congrats. I know it was a few years ago, but congrats on winning the contest.
Oh,
like, if I was in that situation, I'd just be like, what?
Oh yeah. I just stood there looking at the email. I was like, what is this real? Is this actually happening? Is this really it? Like, to be fair, they didn't say I won in the email, but they're like, hey, we need to talk. And I was like, oh yeah. Me? You need to talk to me? That's when, my head started, making up scenarios like, like, what could they want to talk to me about? Surely it's about winning something, no? And then, yeah, it was a little bit, I had to wait a week until we finally got to talk. So it's a little bit, stressful. I was like, very anxious, like, surely this means something good.
And you had to wait a week?
Yeah, that was my fault though. It was an Independence Day weekend, and then I saw the email late and then replied late.
Oh, so, shoot.
Yeah, it got pushed back a little bit. But yeah, once I heard the news, I just couldn't believe it. And
yeah.
A feeling that's hard to describe for sure, but definitely a good one.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's talk about kind of your thought process and how you created Flagbearer for the contest. When you heard about the contest, what were your thoughts? Did you already have a story in mind or an idea of what you wanted to do, or was it kind of like on the fly?
Sort of both. I was doing a canvas series already, so I figured, hey, I have that already. Let me try to adapt it for the contest. right? So it was a bit of taking what I already made and reshaping it so it could fit within the terms of the contest better, if that makes sense. And I ended up going with, hey, let me just do like a prequel, like a very short story. The limit was 1 chapter, so I was like, oh yeah, let me just do like a prequel. So technically, it's something completely new, but it kind of takes upon the foundations of what I already made. So there's a little bit less work, you know. But yeah, when I first heard about the contest, I was like, yo, this is my chance. Like this is it. Just because I am the most brain dead man imaginable, and the only thing on my mind is how to make people hit each other in the coolest way possible. So when the term action contest came out, I was like, this is it. This is my sign. this, this is the contest that I was meant to enter. And I was feeling pretty confident just because when you can't do anything else, you could be confident in the one thing that you could do just by pure admission. Okay. So I was like, okay, yeah, action is the only thing I could do. So this is the contest, and maybe the only contest I could ever possibly have a chance. So, spirits were kind of high going into it, knowing that it was a skill that I was very confident in. And then, yeah, somehow, some way, I keep saying that, but it really is quite a mystery how I got the second place, but it happened.
Yeah, I think that so were your expectations going into the contest where you were just kind of like, I'm just gonna submit it? And did you have a lot of expectations with it or just like zero?
Um, I'm not sure how to put it, but I did have a lot of expectations, but not, I guess, not in terms of winning, but in terms of I know I could do this the best within the parameters of the contest, if that makes sense, right? So I knew that I had a mission to kind of make do on my own words that, hey, I am a guy that only does action and I really love action and I think I do a decent job at it. If this is the contest that was made for me, I should do a good job, like no matter what, right? And in terms of, there was no, I guess there was an inkling of like, hey, this contest is what I'm most confident in because it's my specific genre that I do. But there was no expectation of, oh yeah, I'm gonna win 100% because of that. It was just more of a, yeah, I have I'm confident of the work, but not the result of where it's gonna place.
Yeah, I think that's like a very like normal expectation to have, and I don't know how other people are feeling about the contest now, but at least for me, I'm like, I just want to reboot my series, and the contest is a good way to like get eyes on the new version.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on like as the contest was happening, maybe about like the other entries that were in it. Like, were there any that like really stood out to you at the time that you were just like rooting for? Because I know there was a lot of entries in the contest.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I know I was checking entries like almost every other day. I was like, oh, what's all the new stuff coming out? Like what's the other competition? Is there some amazing stuff? And there was one in particular I still remember. Ah, I wish I knew their name, but I forgot. There it is. There it is. How do I say it? Entheogen? Entheogen?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It won ninth place. It looks like one of the finalists. And yeah, when I saw Entheogen, I was like, wow, this is like one of the best things I ever read. And I was like, yeah, this is how this is gonna take first place for sure. It did it, but but that was definitely one of the ones I was like, wow, this is really incredible and really like, how do I say it? Inspired me. I was like, wow, this is like what I could do too. Like I was like, it took a hit to my confidence in my skills, but it made me want to do better though. So in a good way.
It it took a hit to your confidence, and you won second place. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I don't know how life works sometimes. It's somehow we're here. Somehow we're here. And I mean, we were talking about this before we were recording. But Shirai, I checked that out too back when it was one of the entries, and I was like, oh wow, this looks amazing. And yeah, I actually didn't see the first place winner submission before it got announced. I guess it got just drowned out in noise, and I failed to realize it.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, after it got announced and I read it, I was like, wow, this is like really incredible as well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, so, for the parameters of this contest, like the rules and stuff, is Webtoon laid out like 40% of your score is audience appeal and engagement.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when you look back at the entries for the Call to Action contest, there were several that had just not that many subscribers. I think one of them had like 600 something subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Another one had barely like over 1,000
Oh, dang.
subscribers.
I
And I think
mean,
actually another one had like even fewer than those.
yeah. I mean, if I'm allowed to spill the tea a little bit,
Yes,
mine
please
was.
spill the tea.
I'm pretty sure mine was less than 100 during the run.
No way.
Not even joking. I could be, maybe it was barely over 100. I can't remember exactly. But the only reason, if you go back on it now, there's like 1,000 something. But that's only because it won, and then people checked it out
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, 40%.
Wow.
I don't know if the math is mathing, but that's just me. I'm not good at math, so yeah.
I I'm not sure if it was the same rules for the call to action contest. I don't remember the rules. I bet we could look it up.
Yeah, I forgot what the percentage was, but it was still very high for sure. It was
Yeah,
at somewhat should be 40%, I think, right?
probably. I would assume it would be the same.
Yeah. I still remember to this day, like that was a big like sticking point back when I put in my entry, right? That I was like, oh man, yeah, just by the nature of I don't have a lot of subscribers, so not many likes, it's just a done deal. Like I'm not gonna win. And then somehow I did. So it was very very odd. Very odd.
Yeah. Well, it does come down to what Webtoon in particular is just looking for.
Right, yeah.
And even if Flagbearer didn't have like big numbers, they saw it and they saw it as something that they want to have on their platform in their catalog, right?
For sure. For some
And
reason that we can't explain. Yeah.
for some,
Yeah.
excuse
Some
me,
reason. Some reason.
Flagbearer is amazing. For our listeners who have not read Flagbearer, please go read it. I don't often read action webtoons, but this one is incredible. It's got kick-ass action, funny, like comedy, really well-developed characters, just fast pace. It's amazing. Just
Oh,
do yourself a favor and go read it.
but close your eyes when you do. Just like and
Yeah,
subscribe, but don't look at it.
just pay for Fast Pass so you don't have to read
Yeah. That's what I want. 1,000,000%.
it. Yeah, I think again it just does come down to what Webtoon as a platform was looking for. And a lot of my mutuals who are in the contest or entering were really freaking out that they're like, oh well, I won't get 10,000 subscribers. And I'll just try and tell them like, look, not every I mean, okay, I have brought this up in past interviews, but I'll bring it up again. In the 2016, it was like the Challenge Lee contest, and several big creators entered in it. Like there was Miriam Bonastre, there was Miso, there was Ingrid Ochoa. When Instant Miso entered the contest, she got bomb rated to like a 6.9.
What?
Yeah, and I can't remember how many subscribers she had at the time, but so she didn't win the contest either. But Webtoon really liked her story enough that despite her not winning the contest, they reached out to her anyway, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we really love where tangents meet. Are you interested in like? Would you be interested in the opportunity?" So, and look where she is now.
Yeah.
So,
Incredible.
yeah. So even if you don't win the contest, and I'm not making like I'm not claiming this is what Webtoon's gonna do, but even if you don't win, there could still be an opportunity for you out there. You never know.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think it's pretty safe to say that they're obviously looking, right? Their eyes are on the submissions, and that it wouldn't hurt to have it out there, right? Like, it's not really just all about winning, that just having it out there and them seeing it could mean the difference, right?
Yeah. So let's get into how you created Flagbearer for originals, because so you said you had it as like the normal like version on Canvas and then you made the call to action version of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the call to action version was a prequel. So current Flagbearer is kind of very different from the contest entry, but it's basically a reboot of the Canvas entry, which the prequel is based off of. So it was definitely a lot easier knowing that, hey, I had a certain outline in a sense already made, right? But at the same time, it made it also somewhat difficult where I feel like perhaps, feeling constrained within an already made story can sometimes hinder your creativity, right? So it was definitely a mixed bag where it was nice to have, hey, I made this already. This is kind of what the direction is going to be. And it kind of helps some of the process. But at the same time, yeah, maybe it made it a little bit too trapped within what it was before, and that I thought I had to stick to it somewhat. But yeah, that kind of was the process, that it was already adapting an already made story, so it was just a matter of taking what I made and seeing, hey, what can we do better? Like, should we take this out? And we got here to the end of Flagbearer.
So what was it like pitching it to Webtoon? Like what was that like a nerve-wracking process or were you kind of just like, yeah, this is my story. Here it is.
It was actually I'd imagine my experience is very different from the norm, where technically I didn't have to pitch per se, because I won the contest and got the contract. And so they kind of, my contest entry was the pitch in a
Yeah.
sense, right? So at that point they're like, hey, yeah, just make this but better for 50 episodes. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, I got you. So yeah, my process was definitely a lot different, where it was kind of already set in stone that this would be what they already expect it to be, somewhat like this. So definitely, took a lot of pressure off my back, where it's like, okay, yeah, I just have to make it good. Gotcha, yeah.
Was it difficult to kind of relaunch it for originals? Did you get like a lot of feedback from your editors or were they just kind of like, yeah, just make it and post it or what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot of back and forth with my editor in the very, very beginning, right? Because that was when we really needed to take shape in a good way, right? And that was the best time to make drastic changes if we decided it was necessary, right? So definitely a lot of back and forth with the editor. And it was weird that I had to make the first 3 chapters with my editor first, and then it gets sent off to the rest of the editors, and then they do another revision, if that makes sense, right? But at
Mm.
that point, they I guess they don't really expect you to make, like, hey, just redo the first 3 chapters. Like, this is not good, just redo it entirely, right? They just give like very generic, hey, like some of this can be changed, this and that. So it was kind of like that, where it was just me and my editor in the beginning. We made the premise of Flagbearer. We made the first 2 chapters, then we sent it off to the rest of the editors, and they gave their opinions, and then we did some further edits, and then to the final product.
So did it change a lot from the original version?
Oh yeah, it changed quite a bit. I mean, it basically, the only similarity, I guess, is the 2 main characters. That's about it. Where I even included a whole new main character that my editor, that was his suggestion, an amazing suggestion, where he's like, hey, I think you need another character that kind of acts as like a, how do I say it? Not a sponge, but some pushback for the main character. Like, he seems too plain. He needs
Mm.
to interact with someone else that could give a good contrast, and then explain things better for him. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. And then ended up making a completely new main character that is like the other top 2 character of the show now.
Hmm.
So yeah, many drastic changes for sure that happened throughout, and I'd say maybe it's like only 10% similar. That's how
Oh
much of a
wow.
drastic change it kind of
Wow.
happened. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of what I wanted.
Hmm.
Because, when I look back on my canvas version, I'm like, I'm very proud of it, sure, but, maybe I could do a better job the second time around. And, I really took that chance and really ran with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they gave you that opportunity to really improve upon the story and like give you that really valuable feedback on how to do it.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, my editor back then, I have a new editor now, unfortunately, but yeah, he did a great job, and it was great talking to him, and he had many great suggestions.
So, for our listeners who have never read Flagbearer, haven't heard of it, give us a synopsis of the story.
Sure. It is a fantasy action series where the world has a very big importance on memories, and memories give you strength, and the strongest of them all hold the flag to represent it. And the story takes place with the main character falling into this said world with no memories and only a flag to his name. And it just takes off from there, where he takes on a grand adventure and try to piece it all together.
Oh god, sorry. I was holding
Was it
that in.
bad? It was
Sorry, I was
that
holding that
bad.
in.
I'll just redo it.
No, it's okay. I was holding it in until you got to a point where you stopped talking. Sorry. My bad.
No,
It's
don't
okay.
worry about it. Don't worry about
I
it.
can edit that part out.
I think we keep it, honestly. That's a
Yeah,
great
we
reaction
keep it.
to have of the.
Yeah, I absolutely love the story of Flagbearer. I think it's really original, and I really like the start to the story because it's just so action packed and it really brings you in immediately into the story, what's happening, our main characters, and like the world around them. It was really well paced for sure.
Oh, thank you. I mean, to go back to the last question, I mean, the first 3 episodes probably had the most amount of edits that I ever had to do. Where I'm not even joking, like maybe like half of it completely cut and or redone to some degree, right?
Oh, oh my
So
god.
yeah, I'm glad the final product is somewhat coherent, because it changed quite a lot over the
Yeah.
course of the production. But hey, we somehow got there, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Were they at least telling you to make those edits in the storyboard process, or did you have like fully rendered panels and then they're
So
like, nah.
so it was both, unfortunately.
Oh
But
god.
of course, in the storyboard phase, there was a lot of editing at that time, and it was hard to get it completely right. Where there is some, it took many different turns to end up to the final product, and then it got to the final product, and then we had to do some more editing. Where, to be fair, my editor knew that it was kind of unreasonable to ask, "Hey, redoing panels," so he limited himself to only cutting it out, right? Because
Mm,
that's no work to just delete it, right? It makes
yeah.
me, shed a tear, but technically no work to just cut it out, right? But I took that chance, and I was like, "You're right. These are some great edits, but let me add a few more panels because I can't resist."
Yeah.
So I shot my own foot, right? That I was like, no, I'll do more work because this needs to look better. So definitely a bit of a perfectionist attitude was going on with the first 2 chapters, but yeah, definitely a lot of changes were made.
Yeah, I feel like the more people I talk to that work with editors or who are Webtoon originals is like the first 3 episodes are the most heavily edited out of the bunch.
Yeah, I could only imagine what other people went through, because I've yeah, my first episodes, woo.
I wanted to ask you like get more of an idea of how you like choreograph all the action scenes because I'm sure there's like listeners who are like wanting to improve like their action scenes if they have
Mm-hmm.
like a comic like that. Um so tell me more about how you go about choreographing your action scenes because they are really well done in Flagbearer. Like it's really impressive how you can pace things so clearly where I can follow the action very easily. I know what's happening. So how do you go about choreographing those?
First off, thank you so much for the amazing compliment. But how I do it, man, I don't even know myself sometimes. I'm gonna be honest, but it's it's definitely a culmination of, I think, my experience reading other series, right? And that I'm very fortunate to be doing a genre that I'm very passionate about, right? And that passion came from reading other series and kind of digesting it as a creator would, where I take that in and be like, hey, how can I spin it to if I were going to make something of my own, right? And all those years of just accumulating all this, like, how do I say it? Like well, I forgot the word, some kind of reference, like your head reference of just the different stuff that other people have done, and you're like, oh yeah, that's amazing. How about this and that, right? All the years of that have now kind of grown to being able to allow me to regurgitate it in a more creative manner to where I could do it, right? So it's definitely, I wouldn't say like a pure creativity thing, but just pure experience of consuming this genre and so many other amazing action series of the past, right? So it's a bit of terrible advice just saying, hey, just read more. But I think it is very crucial, right? That we don't like, there's nothing truly original these days where everything has been done already to a certain extent. So it's just what you make out of it that what ends up making it original, right? So just, hey, consume as much as you can. Like, you're not in a place where you have to think of something that has never been done before and thinking that's the golden standard. No. Just consume as much as you can, see what's out there, be like, and it'll just activate your brain in ways that you never knew it could. And that's just kind of how it kind of comes out. And I have a very particular process where I'm very calculating in how I panel it out because I don't want to overshoot my panel limit. I'm sorry, not limit, but minimum, where then I wouldn't be able to meet the deadlines, right? So I try my best to kind of simplify what needs to be simplified and over exaggerate what needs to be over exaggerated. And I feel like I've fallen in a place where I know the kind of action that I'm good at, which is kind of, how do I say it? Not pure raw visceral punching or kicking, but more of some kind of visual storytelling of some underlying emotion is what is being presented with whatever they're doing in this action scene, right? And that's what I try to portray. And I just kind of rack my brain and feel like, hey, how can I do this the best? And get to drawing.
I think that is really good advice. If somebody wants to create a webcomic that is in the action genre or fantasy, just go read webtoons. Just read a bunch of webtoons that are in that genre. And it doesn't even have to be webtoons. You could even go watch series or movies that are in that genre. You can go find comic books, you can go find manga, just like a visual medium that does those scenes really well. Because I think that's one of the best ways to learn, is just to see how the experts and like the people who are really good at it doing it. And I think it just, you have to kind of put in that time to do your own studying and not just like looking at it, but actually thinking about how they went about framing the shot in a film, how they made, like in a webtoon, how they made the action flow in like a very limited vertical space. Because again, we're very limited with the space we have to work with.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I think that is really good advice, to just go observe and go try to study up on how other people are doing those kinds of scenes or those kinds of stories in that genre.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head where the most important part is that when you read, you are sort of studying, right? Not, don't try to just consume. Try to just think maybe just one step extra further, like, let me process that for just another second and see why they did it like this. And then that will take you miles just with that one extra step alone. Instead of just mindlessly reading whatever is out there, just doing just one more extra step, be like, that's interesting. And just look at it for another 10 seconds and try to digest it.
Yeah. So I'd love to know, who are the creators, or what are the things that really help inspire you to create for Flagbearer?
I think the greatest, most recent inspiration was probably soul leveling. A competitor,
Oh yeah. Oh
unfortunately.
yeah.
But Yeah, that was back when man, was this like 2019 or something? I was a guy that only consumed like 90% manga, Japanese manga, right? Webtoons was maybe like 5% here and there. My first foray into webtoons, I remember back when I was in middle school, was like the original Tower of God, The
Mm,
Gamer,
yeah.
uh, some of the other ones like Noblesse, but it never stuck to me that much. I was consuming mostly Japanese manga instead. But around 2018, 2019, I stumbled upon Soul Leveling because there's a lot of buzz around it. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting, right? Let me check it out. And that kind of blew my mind. I'm not going to lie. It kind of shattered all my expectations, right? Where I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is how you do action in a vertical scrolling format. Literally never have seen. To be fair, I haven't read much, so maybe someone else did it before him, but it it just kind of expanded my brain to another dimension where I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, this is how you show action in that platform. And yeah, that kind of launched me into wanting to make webtoons. Like it was a new space for me back then, and I was like, oh, people do webtoons. Like, oh yeah, let me try too. Right after reading Soul Leveling, I was like, oh yeah, I want to make something like this. And yeah, I'd say he is probably the biggest inspiration for the webtoon side.
Yeah, I think it's crazy to see how much Solo Leveling has just absolutely blown up over the last couple years, especially with the anime that came out. And now you have not only like I feel like Solo Leveling has been converting anime fans into webtoon fans
For
where
sure. Yeah.
they love it. They're like they look it up and like, oh, this was a webtoon. First, it was I think it was a web novel.
I
No, no,
believe
no.
so. Or
Wait, it
some kind of
was
light novel.
something like that. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. So it's crazy to see just the insane popularity, but it deserves all the praise. That's for sure.
I agree. It makes me so happy to see that since the anime is now out, like it's reached the more general audience, right? And it's getting some of the recognition that it truly deserves. And look, I'm a fanboy. I'm just gonna put it out there, right? That I'm a glaze it to another dimension. But I do believe it deserves some credit where it definitely reached this point because it was good, really, really good.
Yeah. Are there any other webtoons that you are just like that are really inspiring to you, or just other webtoon examples of people who do action scenes or just the action genre really well?
I mean, for to shout out a fellow American creator, Brent, the man that made Ordeal. That
Yeah.
I don't know if that guy is human, but
I don't think he is.
yeah, he must be from a different planet. That's my only
Yeah.
explanation because it's incredible what he could do with the confines of a weekly release, and it just shatters my mind, and it makes me believe that aliens are real by his existence alone. So what he does, absolutely phenomenal, and truly an inspiration for the rest of us in the action crowd. That he's really setting the bar too high, where I can't reach that bar. Cough, cough. But it's for the best. Like it's really incredible, and I'm really glad that he's getting the recognition that he really does deserve.
He does. I feel like Webtoon was kind of sleeping on Ordeal for a while.
Oh yeah, yeah. Unfortunately,
It's
but
like,
finally, it's people see the light, and I'm like, oh yeah.
yes. I don't know how he does it. The detail, the the just expertise of how he composes all of his scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he does this weekly.
I'm telling you, an
Is he
alien.
okay?
That's only it's
That
the
is
only
the only
explanation.
answer.
He came from like
That is the
Pluto
only
or
answer.
something,
Yeah.
Like he got mad that Pluto got demoted from a planet, so he came to Earth and started making Ordeal.
There you go.
It's the only explanation.
Yeah. I think I would love to interview him and just pick his brain too.
Oh, me too, me too, me too.
So I know hardly anything about the action genre. I do like some action webtoons, and you know, the more I read them, the more I'm like I need to read even more of them. And I started reading Ordeal a while back, but I need to like keep reading it so I can get him on the podcast.
Yeah, and then shoot me, tell him about me too.
I'll shout you out.
Like, hey, there's a guy that wants to talk to you too. By the way, not in a creepy way, not at all.
Feel like, hey, this guy wants to talk to you.
Yeah, he's totally cool. I swear.
It's totally cool. Yeah, I have mad respect for creators that can just to the level like I'm including you in this box, by the way. Or not box, but I'm including you in this group of like the creators that can just produce these crazy, elaborate, action-packed stories that have really good storytelling and like world building. Like I don't know how you guys do it. I'm over here with my drama romance webtoon that I don't know how you just put them out. I have a lot of admiration for you guys.
Yeah, I don't know if I belong in that box because I have admiration for the other guys too. That's what I'm
Come
saying.
on, Chang. You belong in that box.
I do credit just, that's been the only thing on my mind for the last 28 years of my existence, right? So definitely, it just came with the territory, I guess, right? That it just was my passion. And naturally, I guess what your passion is, you'd be probably better at, So I just got the one trick brain of the action, so.
So you're telling me you wouldn't do a fluffy slice of life or what about a fantasy series? Would you do a fantasy series?
Oh, I love every genre under the book except for real life horror because I'm too scared and a little baby. But
same.
Besides that, I enjoy every genre imaginable. So I would love to be able to do more, but there's a part of me that knows, yeah, it wouldn't be that great. And, maybe I could do a decent job, but definitely, I think I realize where my strength lies, and it's definitely making people hit each other, unfortunately.
Well, it's a great skill to have.
True.
So do you have any plans for another series after Flagbearer?
So no concrete plans just yet, but trying to make them concrete right now, as we speak. Yes. So unfortunately,
so action series?
Hopefully. For this one, I'm trying not to limit myself if possible, but I do know that I do a decent job with action, right? That is my current greatest strength. And it would be kind of counterintuitive to kind of throw that aside and try something new. Not to say that that's not a bad thing, or that is a bad thing, but I do want to lean on my strength because I might as well. And it is what I love to do. So most likely, if there is something new, it's most likely going to have action. Yeah. Most likely, but no promises.
No promises. Okay. Can you tell us maybe how much is left of Flagbearer?
Oh, so it's actually going to end really soon. There's 9 chapters left, I believe, from this week.
What?
Yep. So unfortunately,
it's ending that soon?
Yeah, unfortunately, the end is very, very near. It is going to end on chapter 70. And we're on 60? 59 for Fast Pass? So very, very soon we will see the finale.
Was the story... Were you always having it planned to be shorter?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. The plan was to make it as long as possible, right? But unfortunately, it had to come to an end due to certain circumstances. So I was like, hey, okay, yeah, let's do it. And I'll try my best to try to end it on a somewhat satisfying note.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I have faith. I think you could do it.
Oh, thank you. I don't.
I need to catch up so I can be there when the final episode comes out.
Oh, for sure. Be there right at the gates.
So before we end today, I did have one more question for you. Since the Webtoon Legends Contest is going on right now, what advice would you give to somebody who is entering the contest? What would you tell them?
I think the biggest thing to kind of take note of is to keep it as simple as possible. And of course, with the caveat that you do want to make something good. And everyone wants to make something good and simple because that's the easiest way to do it, right? So that's the eternal equation that everyone's trying to figure out. But I think it's very, very important to not try to overcomplicate things and simplify whenever you can. Always simplify, always simplify. You have a limited amount of chapters, and that's an unfortunate reality that you kind of have to take in and be like, hey, it needs to be a material that could be effective in a very short amount of time. And of course, that is a very monumental task and incredibly difficult to achieve, but that is what needs to be done for this very specific contest entry. And I think anyone listening should try to not overthink it whenever they can. And because, your mind's running with so many different ideas, but you have to try to stop it whenever you can and realize, hey, it's not about the amount, it's about the quality, so biggest thing, just try and keep it simple whenever you possibly can. I know everyone wants to create the next big One Piece. I do too, but you have to get that point across within a certain amount of chapters. So simple is definitely the best in this scenario.
That is definitely good advice. I agree. I think that's something that I struggled with when I was rethinking my comic to reboot it for the contest. I was thinking of cutting out a big component of it entirely to simplify the story.
Right.
But I realized that then I wouldn't be setting myself apart from the trope that I have in it. And so I was just like, well, I don't want to take out that unique component. And it is really fun to have it in there. But I had to rethink, okay, if I keep this in there, how can I balance the different aspects of the story? And how do I set everything up in the first 3 episodes, which is really hard to do. I feel like people underestimate how hard it is to structure those first 3 episodes.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest trap that we all fall into, right? Where we made the story and we're like, oh, wait a minute, this is a lot more complicated than I initially expected, right? And the most difficult part is to make it simple, even though that sounds contradictory. Simple means simple, right? Not really. Trying to break things down and still have it be effective is some of the hardest things to do, right? But it's very necessary to try and see if you can do it. Try and see what you could pick at to see what needs to stay and what can go. And I think that is the number one most important thing to take into consideration for the contest.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Chang, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I had such a blast talking to you and picking your brain about the contest. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I had a wonderful time and so grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I was like, I got introduced to your comic through Pantheon Talks, and I was like, okay, now I have to talk to Chang.
Shout out to Apollo.
Yep.
Doing
shout out to Apollo.
Amazing work connecting people.
Yes, he absolutely is. I need to have him on my podcast. I've been on his a couple times. I need to have him come on to mine and talk. He's really awesome at he's really good at connecting people and building the community up for sure.
Yeah, super grateful to have him.
So where can people listening find you online?
All my handles use my username CYARTLEE with 2 E's for the Lee. So every handle on Instagram, Twitter, formerly known as X. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. X, formerly known as Twitter. Patreon.
I still call it Twitter.
TikTok. Yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, you can just find me there and on webtoons.com. If you just search up Flagbearer, you could read my my amazing, absolutely incredible, one of a kind, the greatest action webtoon to grace this planet, Flagbearer. Yes. You can see it there.
Yes, please go read Flagbearer. As somebody who doesn't read a lot of action series, who absolutely loves Flagbearer, please go check it out. You will not regret it.
Just close your eyes when you do.
Just close your eyes.
It's okay.
Buy that fast pass.
I'll forgive you. Just close your eyes. But like and subscribe.
like, and subscribe. If you guys found this podcast informative or entertaining, give us a like, give us a follow. We are on YouTube at the Webtoon Wave. We are on Spotify at the Webtoon Wave. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the Webtoon Wave. We post extra Webtoon content on Instagram, and you can follow us there to stay up to date on future guests and all things Webtoon content. So stay creative, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.